Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Ms. Erika Cartledge. Ms. Cartledge is a proud graduate of Howard University. Presently, she works as the Director of Major Gifts at the Key School in Annapolis, Maryland. Prior to this role, she spent 13 years in the finance industry, so she has a wealth of knowledge to share with us today about budgeting and financial management. Ms. Cartledge is also the founder and owner of Your Chic is Showing, an organization that specializes in personal styling as well as fashion education. She resides in Baltimore, Maryland, with her husband and their 3 children. Without further ado, I present to you my friend and fellow Bison, Ms. Erika Cartledge.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am just going to share my screen, so give me 1 second. I am so excited to be here with all of you today and to chat about budgeting and set up a budget, and also talk about some pitfalls and mistakes I made with my budget when I was in college. So I'm just really happy to be here. If you guys have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I think Miss Nikki will let me know. You can drop them at any time, and I will answer them as you guys ask the questions. We're going to do some activity at the end, and I will just ask one of the moderators if they can give me a signal or pop in and tell me when we're at about the halfway point, because I want to make sure that we have some time to build a budget together. So without further ado, let's get started. And we are going to talk about budgeting, really just the basics and why it is a recipe for success. So about me, just a little bit, as Miss Ebony said, I am a graduate of Howard University. I will tell you that as many times as I can get it in. I live in Baltimore with my husband, Roger, and our 3 kids. We have a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 17-month-old who is running around like a crazy man right now. So I apologize if you hear him in the background. And so people always say, well, why are you qualified to talk about this sort of stuff? And so as Miss Ebony mentioned, I work as a director of major gifts at a private school. So I do fundraising for our school, but I raise our big gifts. So think $500,000 gifts, $1 million gifts, multi-million-dollar, multi-year gifts for the school. So I have my own budget for the school that I manage. I also work with families as they're figuring out how they can make those large gifts and make it work into their family budget. And before that, I used to work with people that are called high net worth individuals. So think of multimillionaires, billionaires, those types of people. And I would work with them on their financial services. And one of the things that my company did was help them with their family budget, which I'm sure that you can imagine is quite large, with a lot of moving parts when you start getting into having that much money. I also have my own business, so I manage the budget for that. And my husband jokes that I'm the CFO of our family, so I also manage our family budget. There's not a financial decision that doesn't come to me first. So why am I here to talk to you? I really want to set you guys up for success when you are still in high school, when you go to college, and even beyond college. I want to make sure that you all are armed with the tools that are going to give you the best shot at success. I also want to keep you from making costly mistakes in college and beyond. So I always love to share this story. When I went to Howard University, for my first semester, my parents gave me $1,000 in spending money. So I had a full scholarship to college. So my tuition and fees were paid for, my books were paid for, my room and board was paid for. So I had a meal plan. So I didn't really have expenses in college, and my parents still paid my phone bill. So this $1,000 they gave me was to last me the entire first semester of school. So call it, 12, 15 weeks, whatever that is. I want you guys to drop in the chat, and Miss Nikki, maybe you can answer. How long do you think it took me to spend that $1,000? And I can't see the chat, so you guys will have to tell me some of the answers that are popping in.
1 month.
1 month, okay. Any other guesses?
I'll say 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. So it took me 3 weeks to spend $1,000. I got to Washington, D.C. from Toledo, Ohio, I went shopping, got myself a whole new wardrobe. My friends and I were like, oh, we're going to go eat out. I was treating everybody 3 weeks to spend the money that my parents had given me to last an entire semester. So when I called my parents and said, hey guys, guess what? I'm out of money. My parents said, since you think we're a bank, we're going to treat it like we're a bank. And so they loaned me another $1,000 to last for the semester. But there was a stipulation. I had to pay back the original $1,000 that they gave me, plus the $1,000 that they loaned me, plus interest. So interest is when you pay a penalty or a fee for borrowing money. So I didn't pay my parents back $2,000. I had to pay them back $2,000 plus a 10% interest rate, I think it was. So I ended up actually paying them back $2,000 plus $200, so $2,200. So I had to pay them back more money than what I had borrowed from them. And if I had sat down, and my dad is a CFO, so there's really no reason that I shouldn't have had a budget, except that I just thought I knew everything at 18. If I had sat down with my dad and said, okay, let's create a weekly budget. If I spend, $80 a week or something like that, that'll last me the whole semester. I wouldn't have ended up having to pay my parents $2,200. So I don't want any of you all to go to school and go to college and have this money that you've worked hard for and you've saved up and been gifted, and then you spend it all in 3 weeks. Do not be like me, okay? So we're going to get started. The other thing you should know about me is I'm a giant Beyonce fan, so all of the slides are named after Beyonce songs. If you're a Beyonce fan, you'll notice that too. So what I really want to talk to you guys about is before you can create a budget and stick to that budget, you have to set your financial goals and priorities, because if you don't know what you were budgeting for, what you were saving for, what you were working for, then you'll have no idea where your money's going, where it's spending it, and you'll actually be surprised how much money you waste or don't think about when you are creating your budget. So I want to talk a little bit about what the difference is between a financial priority and a financial goal. And again, if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. I know that Miss Nikki will give me those questions so that I can make sure that I answer everything. So something that is a priority is superior in rank, position, or privilege. It's given something that's given or meriting attention before competing priorities. Okay, so I just want you to keep that in mind while we talk about a goal. In contrast, a goal is something that's a measurable and attainable objective. It's dependent upon you for accomplishment, and it is specific enough that you will know when you have attained it. So when we think about a financial priority, your priority could be taxes, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but taxes are such a financial priority that the government takes taxes out of your paycheck. So it is so important and such a priority, they don't even necessarily trust you to pay them. So they pay them before you get your money, right? But a goal, in contrast, could be, I like to shop and I like really nice bags, right? So I set up a little monthly savings to put away to buy a bag. And so my goal every year is like, I want to get a Louis Vuitton bag, for example. And so that's a goal. It's not a priority. I'm not going to buy a Louis Vuitton bag over getting food for my children, but it's a goal that I have personally. So now what I want to do, and you guys can either unmute yourselves to answer or drop in the chat, we're going to just say what we think some of these different things are. So if you go to church or you go to a religious institution, you may have to pay tithes or offerings or give some sort of gift. Do you think tithes or offerings are a priority or a goal? Anybody have thoughts?
So I think it's Ryan says it's a priority. Kiana says it's a goal.
So this is a trick question. It depends. It depends on you and your family and what's important to you. So in our house, it's a priority. It's a non-negotiable. So we want to pay them. But for some people, it's a nice to have. It's a nice to be able to do, but it's not a priority. So it is a goal. So you may have a goal that says, over the course of a year, we want to give $100 to our church. And so then you can think about every month how you split that out. Other people in our family, like I said, it's just a non-negotiable. So when we pay our bills, it's literally a line item in our budget. And so we just pay it online. All right, next one, saving for college. And that includes your tuition fees, room and board, books, etc.
See, lots of priorities in the chat.
Yeah, so for you guys, it's definitely a priority, right? So when you're thinking about what you want to do for your future, you guys are here in this program, so it is absolutely a priority for you all. And our family, it is too. So we set up accounts for each of our kids and we put money away just like you guys would. So that's great. All right, your taxes. We talked about this, so this should be easy. Priority, right? Such a priority that the government takes them from you when you get a paycheck. And if you work for yourself, one of the things that your accountant will do, my accountant does this for my business, is she sets aside money every month so that I can pay quarterly taxes. But it's such a priority, the government doesn't even trust you to pay yours. All right, setting up an emergency savings fund. What do we think? Goal or priority?
See some goals, some priority.
So this is another, it depends, right? So I would say if you don't have an emergency savings fund, it should probably be a priority because you don't want to be in a financial position where something bad happens and it wreaks havoc on your finances. But after you get your emergency savings fund, you may say, okay, I have this sort of bare minimum number. I want to help it grow, but I'm going to be more aggressive in other areas of my budget. So for our family, we have an emergency savings fund. I have a rental unit where I have another tenant that lives in a condo and the HVAC broke. And I don't know if you guys know anything about replacing an HVAC, but that's anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000 to replace the whole system. So we have an emergency fund exactly for those situations. And so then once we used it, it became a priority for us to refill the emergency fund. So then after that, we have some other savings goal and it may be less of a priority, but when you use it, you make it that priority to refill it back to where it goes. All right, saving for a spring break trip to Jamaica, goal or priority? What do you guys think?
Lots of goals.
Lots of goals. Yep. So saving for a trip, a vacation, all of that kind of stuff, it's definitely a goal. After being stuck in the house with COVID, it may feel like a priority and feel very important to you, but that's definitely a goal that you can set. You can attain it and say, oh, spring break is in March, so I know I have X amount of time to reach that goal. All right, your living expenses, goal or priority?
Priority.
Priority. Yeah, you won't have any place to live if you don't pay those living expenses. And I think this is the last one. So debt, and that includes loans, credit cards, anything your parents, when you borrow money from them, are those priorities or goals?
Priority.
It's a priority, and it's definitely a priority because those debts and paying those debts affects your credit score, which can affect so many things for your future, everything from the ability to get an apartment, a cell phone in some cases, a car, etc. So you definitely want to make sure that paying those is a priority for you. Oh, sorry, this is the last one. So philanthropy and family legacy. So when I say philanthropy, that means charitable donations, gifts to nonprofits and charities. What do you think? Goal or priority?
One person said it depends, but everyone is saying go.
Okay, so I think it does depend a little bit, but it can be a goal. So for most of us, we may say, oh, I have these 3 nonprofits I love, so I want to set a goal to give, X amount of dollars to the nonprofit every year. I will say, and I believe every single one of you will be multimillionaires in this room when you start to getting to that level of wealth. Your philanthropy and your family legacy and what you will pass down to future generations and also give away starts to become more of a priority. And here's why. There are a lot of tax benefits to giving away gifts and money and donations, and also setting up a way to pass down your money to future generations in your family. So it will become less of a goal and more of a priority, because you'll want to make sure that the organizations and your family can get the most money possible without Uncle Sam taking a giant chunk of it. So thank you guys for participating in that. So now when we talk about setting up a budget, we are going to think about who gets paid first when we are creating our budget. So I want to ask you guys, who do you think are the first people that you should pay when you're making a budget and doing all of your payouts? And you can just drop it in the chat. Anybody?
So I see the first one says the mortgage, and those that you are in debt to already. There was another response.
That's good. That's a good answer. All right, so let's talk about this. So if you're paying tithes, you want to pay your tithes first. And that's if you pay that and that's what you believe. And so when I say that, even though you're going to pay it with after tax money out of your paycheck, which we'll talk about, you would give your 10% based on the gross amount of your paycheck. So if your gross paycheck is $1,000 and your net is $900, you would do 10% or 5% or whatever that is of that $1,000. So actually the next person that gets paid is you. So when you have a job, you will have different accounts that you can pay money into before taxes are taken out of your paycheck. And so those are your 401k, which is your retirement account. You will probably have some medical and dental and life insurance. You could work in a job or a position where they pay for your transit. So when I used to commute into the city of Philadelphia, my job actually allowed me to set up money in a transit account to pay for my train tickets before they took the taxes out. So that's next. So what that does is actually creates a benefit for you, because you have less money that the government can tax you on. So you'll get to take a little bit more home. So the next person that gets paid is the government. Like we talked about, they take it straight out of your paycheck. So your anything, your pre-tax accounts, your taxes come straight out of your paycheck. After that, that's when you pay everyone else. So it can be yourself again, because you're doing savings, IRAs or investment retirement accounts. And so that's another, if you want to do an additional retirement account, you can set that up. It's your living expenses and your bills. So everything you guys said, that mortgage that you have to pay, so you have someplace to live, the electric, so that you have power and energy in your house, all of that gets paid. Then you pay your debts. So if you have student loans and those sorts of things, and then charity. So that's really how you want to think about it when you're creating your budget and prioritizing the things that you want to pay out first. Are there any questions? I'm going to pause there.
No, there are no questions so far.
All right, cool. Then we will keep going. So now that you're thinking through that, we can really talk about how you're going to manage your financial obligations. So those priorities, those bills, those are all going to be your obligations, but you also build your budget to include your goals, right? Because it doesn't feel fun to live with a budget and be so strict with things if you don't have some goals along the way, right? So what we're going to do is think about building a budget that covers our priorities, but also helps us get closer to meeting our goals. So when you think about your financial goals, what are you striving for? It could be, for my husband and I, we're like, we want to be debt-free. We want financial independence. I want to be able to say when COVID is over, let's go get on an airplane and go to an island for a week. Like, that's what I want. So everything we do, we think about, does this bring us closer to financial independence? You could be saving for that vacation. You guys are in high school. You might be saving for a new car. You could be an adult saving for a new car, right? I used to have a BMW. I want another BMW, okay? So that was like pre-kids. Like now the kids can't ride the Beamer. So you could be saving for a new car. You could be saving for college. There's all of these different things. So you want to think about, what are the goals? What's important to you that you are saving for? Then you can create your budget to think about what you bring in and what you're spending and how you meet the goals. I know I have a note to do the sample budget, but I'm actually going to show you that at the end because I want to get through these pieces because it'll really help us, okay? So then once you have those priorities, once you have those goals, you think about your budget, you implement that plan to manage our budget and work towards the goals. Now, here's the great thing about having a budget. You can adjust your spending to help meet your needs and maintain your lifestyle, right? So when I first graduated from college and I sat down with my dad for real this time and did a budget, we talked about, okay, where are the areas that I can save money and where are my non-negotiables? So for me, it was really important that I could go get my hair done once a month. I was like, this is a non-negotiable. I don't like dealing with my own hair. I'm going to pay someone to do it. So my dad said, okay, that's fine. How much does it cost with the tip? We'll put that into your budget for the month. But where are you going to save money on the back end? So where I saved money on the back end was I decided I could do my own manicures and pedicures at home and I could make adjustments. We thought I might spend X amount of dollars eating out, but then it turned out I stayed in cooking more. So I could reallocate dollars from my eating out budget to a grocery budget or to the movies or something like that. Same thing, with COVID. My husband and I have a line item in our budget that was date night because we went on date night once a week. Well, once COVID hit, there was no date night. And so we had the extra money that was in the date night budget that we could say, okay, we're going to throw this at credit cards instead because we want to start paying down debt faster. So your budget, you really want to think about it as a living, breathing document. It is meant to be changed. It is not meant to be set in stone. Okay. So I really want that to be clear to you guys that you can make adjustments. You might have an unexpected bill that comes up that you have to pay. You might get some unexpected money that comes in and you're like, oh, okay, where do we want to reallocate this? So your budget is not a set it and forget it. I do our family finances once a week. I get up on Saturday morning and I check everything. And again, just to make sure that, things make sense and are working. We got, when my son stopped drinking formula, we got a huge uplift in our grocery budget. That changed everything. A kid that's about to go to daycare, we had to rejigger the budget, but he'll start school next year and then that'll be a huge uplift. So just think about your budget like a living, breathing document. And so we're going to talk a little bit about putting the plan to work, and then we're going to build a budget together. So when you are thinking about your goals, we talked about this, that you want them to be specific and measurable. So you're going to establish some SMART short and long-term goals. So the S, it's an acronym. S is for specific. What do you want to accomplish? I want to be rich is not specific. I want to have $500,000 in the bank by the time I'm 40 is specific. It's measurable. So how will you evaluate if the goal has been met? Do I have $500,000 or do I not have $500,000? It's achievable. Is it practical and realistic? If you're 39 and a half and you're just starting this goal to get $500,000 by the time you're 40, maybe not realistic. But if you're 35 and you come up with a plan, it becomes realistic. Is it relevant? Is the goal worthwhile? Does it meet your needs? So saying like, I want to buy a spaceship, probably not very relevant. But for me saying I want to have X amount of dollars in each of our kids' college funds, very relevant. And then timely. If you don't have a time frame around it, then you won't accomplish it because it'll just keep going on indefinitely. So you want to put a time frame around it. The other really important thing is that your financial goals, if you're married, if you have a partner, you want to make sure they're agreed upon by both parties. So my personal goal of buying a handbag comes out of my personal spending money and budget because my husband could care less if I'm carrying a Louis Vuitton bag. In the same way that I could care less if he has the Air Max 95 limited edition, blah, 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 blah. So you want to create goals and set up goals that are agreeable on both parties, but we both agree we need to fund college. So what I want you guys to think about as we are about to create this budget together is I want you to think about what are some realistic goals for yourself. Okay, so don't worry so much about someone in their 20s and 30s. Think about yourselves. And I want you guys to come up with what is a realistic financial goal for yourself. And I also want you to start thinking about what are some of the financial priorities that you may have. And a financial priority for you, if you drive, it may just be having gas money to put gas in your car, right? Like a priority doesn't have to be a mortgage. If you have to drive yourself, to a job or things like that, or when it wasn't COVID and you have to drive yourself to school, having gas money is a priority for you. Having some spending money, that's a priority for you. Some of you might be paying your own phone bills. That's a priority. So those are the things I want you to think about. And what
Look, we have a special treat for you guys, okay? We have a guest speaker who is a scholar, who's going to share some information, a very amazing resource that's right here in our community. Okay. All right. So guys, I want to welcome Ms. Ryan Bates here. Okay, Ms. Ryan, you just heard from her. But Ryan is going to share some information with us. Ryan is the third vice president of the NAACP Camden County East Youth Council. And I want you, Ryan, to take your time and share with us information about this chapter. Go for it.
Thank you so much for inviting us. Before I even start, thank you for the invitation. But good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Bates. I'm the third vice president of the NAACP, Camden County East Youth Council, and I'm also the chair of the Region 2 Convention. And Layla Muhammad is our president. I am also an aspiring OBGYN doctor. The NAACP is an acronym for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which was founded in 1909, and the Youth Council and College Council were founded in 1936. Our Youth Council is completely youth-run with the help of our advisor, Maisha Aziz, who can be here today, but she sends her wishes. And we have 11 active committees with chairs and co-chairs. The Fundraising Committee is one of our most highlighted committees, where they raise money to support our initiatives. I believe Zion, they're not here today, but they were coming and they send their wishes too. And also our community service, we have done multiple community services during the pandemic. We went to Urban Promise for MLK Day and we did service there. We painted rooms and we worked out in their garden and we cleaned like a couple sheds. And we did another activity where we provided Thanksgiving baskets to different families in need. The Education Committee is also one of our most highlighted committees, which plans 2 annual college tours, which is the HBCU College Tour and the Ivy League College Tour, which provides scholarship information to our members. Within the past 3 months with the rest of our committees, we did the following. We participated in the national Get Out to Vote effort for the Senate runoff elections in Georgia. We canvassed various neighborhoods, disseminating Get Out to Vote postcards with important voting information. And we also co-hosted an inauguration watch party with Delta Sigma Theta, where our clips of the program were showcased on television. And lastly, we participated in a live stream election education on Philly camera with other NAACP members in the Delaware Valley area. We are so thankful that you invited us to today's program. I love coming to this program. It was a great experience today, learning how to budget and discuss our initiatives. And we thank you for everything you guys done for us. If anyone wants to become a member, you can always inbox me privately, or I can leave my email in the chat, and I can leave the NAACP Camden County East email in the chat. And membership is only $10 at all times in the year, and it lasts for a year. Thank you.
Ryan, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. So we do this every month. We do this every month, the 4th Saturday of the month. And like I said before, we have some really cool themes that are coming up in the next couple months. We're going to be talking about college admissions. We are going to be talking about resume building. We're going to be talking about being a student athlete. Okay, so if any of those types of things pique your interest, make sure that you're coming back every month because you don't want to miss out. We are here to make sure that you get all the information that you need to get to college, have fun doing so that when you get there, you're already ready to rock and roll and get those straight A's.